Hello, everyone, and welcome. Think of today's session as part lecture, part linguistic deep dive. We're going to take one of the most common, most fundamental sentences in Mandarin Chinese, put it right under the microscope, and take it apart piece by piece. My goal here is that by the time we're done, you won't have just memorized a phrase, you'll understand a whole method for looking at and learning this language.
And here it is, our subject for today. 你做什么工作? Now, at first glance, this looks like a pretty simple, 6-character question, right? But believe me, packed inside these characters are the keys to understanding so much about Mandarin, its sounds, the logic of its characters, its grammar, and even some really crucial bits of cultural etiquette. So let's get started.
So here's our plan of attack for this. We're going to start at the very foundation, the sounds and the tones, the phonetics. From there, we'll zoom in and dissect each character one by one to really get its core meaning. After that, we'll put those pieces back together and look at the grammar, the sentence structure. And finally, and I'd argue this is the most critical part for actually communicating well, we're going to talk about the cultural context. When do you use this question? And just as importantly, when don't you?
All right, let's start with the sounds of the language. What you could almost call its music. You see, in Mandarin, tone isn't just optional flavor. It's a core part of a word's meaning. If you change the tone, you literally change the word. So getting the tones right isn't just for bonus points. It's absolutely non-negotiable if you want to be understood.
Okay, this table here, it's basically the musical score for our sentence. It lays out the tonal shape or melody of the whole phrase. Let's go through each one nice and slow. First up, ni, that's ni. It's a third tone, so it has to dip down and then come back up. Listen, ni. Good. Next, zuo, zuo. That's a fourth tone. It's sharp, it's falling. Think of it like a command. Zuo. Then we have sha, shun. This is a second tone, so your voice rises, almost like you're asking a question in English. Shun. The character ma, has a neutral tone. That means it's super quick, light, and unstressed. Next, gong. Gong is the first tone. You hold it high and flat. Gong. And we finish with another zuo, that sharp, falling fourth tone again. Zuo. So the whole tonal pattern is dip and rise, fall, rise, quick and light, flat, fall.
Now, I want to flag something here, because this is probably the single most common pronunciation mistake I hear from new students. They see the first word, ni, and they say it with a flat, high tone, like ni. That is completely wrong. A third tone has a very specific shape. I want you to imagine your voice tracing a little check mark, or a scoop. It has to go down before it can come up. Ni, ni. Can you feel that little dip at the beginning? That's the crucial part. Without it, you're not speaking accurately, and you're really risking confusion.
Okay, so we've got the sounds down. Now let's move on to the characters themselves, the visual logic of the language. It is so important to remember that Chinese characters aren't just random squiggles. They're these brilliant little systems of meaning, often built from smaller pieces we call radicals. And if you understand the radicals, it's like having a key that can unlock the meaning of thousands of characters you've never even seen before.
So our very first character is ni, or ni. As we just practiced, it has that third dipping tone, and its meaning is nice and simple. You, in the singular, informal sense. This is the subject of our sentence, the person we're talking to.
And this character is a perfect example of that logical system I was just talking about. I want you to look closely at the component on the left-hand side, I. This little guy is one of the most common radicals you'll ever see. It's the person radical. It's what we call a semantic component, which means it gives a clue to the character's meaning. So the second you see this radical, you know, aha, this character probably has something to do with a person. It's a visual signpost, pointing you right to the meaning.
Next, let's look at our verb, zuo, zuo. Remember, it's got that strong falling fourth tone. Its basic meaning is to do, to make, or to be engaged in some kind of action. This is the engine of our sentence.
Okay, now for an absolutely essential piece of the puzzle. 什么, 什么. This 2-character word is incredibly important. It's the main way you ask what in Mandarin. My advice? Commit this one to memory right now, because trust me, you are going to use it constantly. What is this? What's your name? What are you doing? They all use 什么.
Let's just zoom in for a second on that second character, ma, or me. If you look at its pinyin, you'll notice there's no tone mark above it.
That's how you know it's a neutral tone. A neutral tone means the syllable is unstressed, it's short, it's light. It basically just latches on to the syllable that came before it. So you don't pronounce it as two separate words like shen, mi. No, it's one unit, shenme, where the mi is just a quick, soft ending. All the emphasis is on that first syllable. Shenme.
And finally, we arrive at the object of our question, 工作, 工作. This is another two-character word that acts as a single noun, and it means work, job, or occupation. So what we have is you, do, what, job.
Let's take this word apart, because it's a fantastic example of how Mandarin builds complex ideas by combining simpler ones. The first character, gong or gong, is a pictogram. It's thought to be a drawing of an ancient tool, maybe a carpenter's square. So it represents labor, industry, skill. The second character, zuo, is all about action and creation. So what happens when you put them together? You get gong, labor, and zuo, action. Labor action. And what is a labor action? Well, it's a job. It's such a beautifully logical and systematic way to build a word. So, we've analyzed all our individual pieces now. We have our subject, ni, our verb, zuo, the question word, shema, and our object, gongzuo. Now let's look at the syntax. How does Mandarin grammar arrange these pieces to build a perfectly clear question?
And right here, I get to share some excellent news, especially for those of you whose first language is English. For a basic question like this one, the word order in Mandarin is identical to English. It follows the subject-verb-object pattern, or SVO. Look at the direct one-to-one comparison. Ni is you, suo is do, and shama gonzo is what work. You don't need to flip anything around or do any complicated grammatical gymnastics. It's wonderfully direct and intuitive.
So to build this sentence yourself, you just follow that logical flow. Step 1, who are we asking about? The subject, ni, you. Step 2, what's the action? The verb, zuo, do. And step 3, what's the thing we're asking about? The object, 什么工作, what work? You just line them up in that order. It's a very clean, very elegant structure.
Okay, everyone. Everything we've done up to this point has been about the how to pronounce it, how to write it, how to structure it. Now we need to talk about the when and the why. We're moving from pure linguistics to pragmatics, and this is an absolutely vital shift. Because let me tell you, having perfect grammar without cultural fluency can lead to some pretty awkward moments or even cause offense without you realizing it. Knowing the grammar gets you through the test, understanding the culture is what makes you a great communicator.
So, let's think about context. When is it perfectly fine to ask 你做什么工作? Well, if you're with peers, people your own age, making new friends, or at an informal networking event, go for it. It's a totally standard, friendly question. However, and this is a big however, if you are meeting a senior executive, a respected professor, or an elder for the very first time, you need to be careful. Asking this question right off the bat can come across as way too direct, almost like you're trying to immediately figure out their status and where they fit in the hierarchy. In those more formal, hierarchical situations, it's much better to start with more general, respectful questions. You could mention something you admire about their company or ask about their industry in general. The key is to build rapport before you get personal.
This quote right here sums up the core idea perfectly. The kind of relationship you have with someone dictates how direct you can be. This is a classic feature of what we call a high-context culture. See, in some low-context Western cultures, getting straight to the point is often seen as efficient. But in many East Asian cultures, the first priority is building a harmonious relationship and showing respect for seniority and hierarchy. So you have to remember this sequence. First, establish the relationship. Only then should you move on to more direct, personal questions.
All right. We have analyzed the sounds, the characters, the grammar, and the crucial cultural context. It's now time to put all of that knowledge together and move from theory into practice. This is the moment where we transform our academic understanding into a real, active ability to communicate.
Okay, I'm going to say the sentence for you twice. The first time I'll go very slowly, and I'll exaggerate the tone so you can hear every single contour. Ready? Listen carefully. 你做什么工作? Let's do that again. 你做什么工作? Great. Now let's try it at a more natural conversational speed. This is how you'd actually hear it and say it. 你做什么工作? Now it's your turn. Try it with me. 你做什么工作?
1. It's just one single question, but please don't underestimate its power.
This one fundamental question, when you say it with the right pronunciation and, just as important, in the right cultural situation, can be the key that unlocks countless conversations, new friendships, and professional connections.
So as we wrap up today, I really want you to focus on the main takeaway. The real goal here wasn't just to teach you this one sentence, it was to show you a process, a method. You start with sound, then move to character, then grammar, then culture, and finally, practice. You can and you absolutely should apply this deconstruction method to every new phrase you learn from now on. This is how you truly learn how to learn this language in a deep and systematic way.
Every phrase you master is like a new key in your pocket, and every question you learn to ask correctly and appropriately opens another door into an incredibly rich and fascinating culture. You now have the method, and you have your first key. The only question left is, what will you discover on the other side?